The organizers of the club, Wildness, themselves were sick over the problem that they found themselves having created just by virtue of their presence. The bar had been there since 1963, and while it hadn't always been a transsexual bar, it had always been a gay bar, and it had never received that kind of attention from mainstream press, that kind of homophobic attention. Also, the community of people that that bar serves is a very fragile community. Wu Tsang, who has become a part of that community over time through his participation in creation of this club, found himself deeply ambivalent about continuing. And they wound up shutting the club down. The reason why the club shut down actually was not, it wasn't a simple political decision, it was actually the result of interpersonal problems between the family that was running the bar and the people who were running the clubs, and a very typical story also for any kind of art scene or a queer underground environment. These are tight-knit communities of personal relationships, and one thing can shift, and all of those relationships seem to disintegrate. And in this instance, it was the death of the bar's owner, who was an older man who was featured in this, and speaking with one of his boyfriends. There's sort of three guys who were running the place, and when he died, the family came in and took the bar over. So, Wu Tsang and I have been having conversations about what Wildness was, why it had to be let go, but also why the idea behind it has to be held onto and staged somewhere else. Right? So, Wildness, which is one of the other possible titles for the film, also means this kind of roving desire, right? This desire to create something else, somewhere else, a fantasy space, but in the here and now. But in trying to do so, one must always negotiate the material conditions of the here and now. And so Wildness shut down, but Wu Tsang went on to create Imprenta, which is actually a transgender law clinic providing legal advice for transgender people living in the neighborhood. So that's the story of Wildness, part of it. So this is just a shot of the interior of the bar. So, and I put some of the language from the newspaper here, and so I apologize for reading this because it's offensive, but I want you to understand, because it's going to connect to some of the reception of queer art and the language. Tits and dick are always on the menu at the silver platter, where he, she's punch the clock, working the blocks, serving it up to lusty Johns. Friday night, honey, every Friday, just for you, big bone Nicaraguan hostess Nicole looks longingly into my eyes as she lures me into a dark corner near the bar's entryway. That's the Latina show, Friday night. She snarls through throaty pipes as her gaze drifts south, meaning to his pants. Okay, yeah, sorry, because it's challenging vocabulary. Sorry. Yeah. Friday night, honey, every Friday, just for you. Big bone Nicaraguan hostess Nicole looks longingly into my eyes as she lures me into a dark corner near the bar's entryway. I'm just going to stop there because I think that gives you the sense of this kind of predatory, frightening transgender presence. So, I'm going to completely change my topic now, which is going to happen a few times. This is a recent work by the artist Neo Bustamante. Most of her work is performance-based, but she also makes objects. This is called Tierra y Libertad. And it's the first in a series of bulletproof revolutionary clothing. Next, she's making the underwear that will be worn underneath this dress. I believe her intention is to be shot while wearing it, but I'm not sure. It's made from Kevlar, so that's the title, Kevlar 2945, it's bulletproof fabric. I'm bringing Neo Bustamante up because she's a different kind of artist from the others I'll be talking about. She doesn't organize a club. But she does a series of works in which she imagines transformation, or embodies transformation. So and I should say those transformations are sometimes gorgeous and attractive, but sometimes they're abject and depressing. So on the right is an image, it's a self-portrait, it's called Deathbed. And this is part of a series of works that form an installation, at the center of which is her holding a deathbed pose live. Oh, sorry, too much. Okay. Or I'm blowing out the eardrums of the translators. Okay. Yeah, so as it says there, the Deathbed series was inspired by the images of Celia Cruz's wake. And so she's trying to inhabit this moment, which she thought looked ecstatic and beautiful, right? And she imagines actually not a post-mortem photograph, right, the image of the artist already dead, but the image of the artist about to die and knowing it, and making herself kind of beautiful for the camera. So it's a morbid work, but it also has a sense of humor. And on your left is a still shot from America the Beautiful, which is an older performance. And this is a live work in which she, it's difficult to describe, but she goes through a series of actions which end up with her wrapped tightly in clear plastic tape and standing atop a very rickety, like not stable, unstable ladder, wearing high heels. Okay. Recently, Neo Bustamante did developed a piece called Silver and Gold, and this is called a film performance. So it's film and performance together. So these pieces involve live projection and then an actual performance in relationship to the screen. This work was inspired by the underground filmmaker and artist Jack Smith, and his muse, which is Mario Montez, who was a Puerto Rican drag queen who lived in New York until the mid-1970s. Mario is in the picture on your right. I think that's him in the top. Jack Smith and Mario Montez were obsessed with Maria Montez, who is a Dominican actress in terrible movies from the 1940s. Yeah, they're great and terrible and great. So they're camp classics, trashy classics, and this is a picture of her from Cobra Woman. So Mario Montez was a muse to Jack Smith and also to Andy Warhol. And yeah, this is Mario Banana on the right, a lovely film in which Mario eats a banana. All too often in contemporary art criticism, we talk about Jack Smith and we talk about Andy Warhol, but we don't talk about Mario Montez.